All right. Test of audio. Here we go. Audio test. 1, 2, 3. All right, Matt, you can go ahead and start sharing your screen.
Okay, perfect. Can you hear me?
Yep, yeah, we can hear you. So start sharing your screen, and then the live stream is already live now, and then we'll let everybody else into the meeting once you start sharing your screen.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, how's it look?
Looks pretty good.
I'm just going to escape the presentation for just a minute, just so I can.
Yeah. Matt, just leave it up, and because we just got to let people in now because it's 2 minutes ahead.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
So just leave yours and then go from there. Because everyone can see like everything that you're like clicking through.
I know. I just forgot one little thing. That's all.
All right, you're fine. Okay, cool. So I'm going to put in. I'm going to start letting people in from the waiting room, and
Okay.
that'll have more people join. So. Yeah. Okay. This is so weird. I don't see myself. All right, everybody. We're gonna wait like a little bit longer just to see if a few more people to join, and also for people to get on the live stream if they need to. But just if you could all just mute yourselves and mute your video, just so it's not like hopping around on Matt's screen and he gets distracted or whatever. So it goes smoothly until it's time to do questions. So in terms of questions, so the way that that's going to work, and I'll explain this again. If you, in the chat feature, there's a way that you can raise your hand. And basically, if you'd like to ask a question at the end, just raise your hand, and then I'll kind of go down the list of people that have raised hands and kind of call on you, or you can just ask or like put in the chat you'd like to ask a question, and then I can go from there. So that's pretty much how I envision it working. But pretty much we're just going to go through Matt's presentation and then do that, and that's how the way questions are going to work. But I'll just give it another like 5 minutes to a few more minutes for people to come in to the meeting, and then we'll go from there. And if you just heard everything that I said and like understand what I'm saying, can you just like go in the chat and just say like heard you like got it, just to make sure that I that I can communicate, well. All right, cool, awesome, sweet. I know this is new for all of us, so that's good to hear. And as you can see, I'm on Professor Ricky's account. That's how we're able to get this to work. So that's why you see his headshot when I don't have my video on. Yeah. Got my WTOP hat. Really excited.
Why are you telling my audience?
Yeah, Macarene.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
All right, everyone, we're gonna get started. So first of all, thank you all for doing this, everyone that's watching and on the live stream, and everyone that's here in this virtual GM elections. We really appreciate you kind of working with it and rolling with the punches through this kind of crazy time. So just a reminder, make sure you're social distancing, make sure you're washing your hands, doing all that stuff. Because we are hashtag together Oz apparently. So keep doing that stuff, hang in there, and we'll get through it. But just to kind of start off, GM elections, Matt is our candidate. Megan informed me that she's decided, after being very excited for this process, after learning about it and really diving into the preparation, decided that it wasn't for her right now, and she'd like to kind of serve the organization in other ways for this year. So our only candidate is Matt for this election. So just to kind of go over the process again, Matt's going to go through his presentation. I just ask that everyone keeps themselves muted and their video muted so it doesn't mess with it. And then once this presentation's over, you can either raise your hand through Zoom or go in the chat and say, I'd like to ask a question. And then kind of as they come in, I will unmute your video and all that. So then you can ask a question directly as opposed to typing it out. So once we're ready for questions, we'll go through that. Just be patient. This is definitely a first time thing for all of us. And make sure the questions that you ask are, substantive and good questions, because this environment's a little bit tougher, so we want to make sure that every question is meaningful. So yeah, with that, I'd like to turn over the floor to Matt Green, and he can tell us why he thinks he'd be a good GM. All right, Matt, go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much, Josh. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This is probably the first time anybody has ever said thank you for tuning in to the general manager election, and hopefully it's our last, but fingers crossed. So I'm gonna get started. So for those of you who don't know me, of course, I'm Matt Green. I'm from Syracuse, New York. I'm currently I'm in my third year at SUNY Oswego as a broadcasting and mass communication major with a minor in audio design and production. And I have an internship lined up for CNY Central in Syracuse this summer, as long as, everything goes back to normal by then. So fingers crossed, right? Another fun fact about me was I produced sports at my high school TV station. And and to be honest, I kind of grew up with TV. My dad works in the industry, and as a result, growing up, when I was little, I got the opportunity to tour a TV station numerous times. So I was exposed to it at a very young age, and that's what inspired me to join my high school TV station. And as a result, when I got accepted to Oswego, the first thing I wanted to do was join WTOP. If there was any club I had my eye on first, it was WTOP, and it was the one I got most involved in. So how my experience at WTOP-10, I started off my freshman year as any typical freshman. I did 2 camera positions for an OP and nightly news. The OP was known as the Lakeside View. And that second semester, I got more involved. I filled in at times. Pretty much by the end of freshman year, I had done every single crew position, and I had done live sports at the same time. Once sophomore year hit, I started reporting for WTOP-10 nightly news. And fun fact, it was actually because of my journalism 209 class. And I decided I wanted to report for WTOP because I wasn't really into writing, and I wasn't too excited about the process of doing journalism, but because I was so excited, I was interested in the whole process behind multimedia journalism. I decided to try it for TOP, and looking back, I'm glad I did it. I reported on tensions at the dining hall, anti-Semitism on campus. Those are a couple of my favorite stories that I've done, but I've done numerous other stories as well, and I owe it to reporting for getting me a good grade, and it really got me where I was. And once junior year hit, actually at the end of that second semester too, I became a web editor, so I got a taste of management. And then once junior year hit, I became an assignment director, joining News Board, all while starting to produce. I started to produce this year, and I was very happy to do it. And as well as being a member of Special Events Board with Tara and Caroline. And yeah, so I became an assignment director because I wanted to help the next generation of reporters, and I did. And throughout that time, throughout this whole time of the experience, I did live sports, and I tried some directing, and I also learned to produce for Pathfinder this past winter. So that was really exciting. So going off of that, throughout my time at this station, WTOP has made numerous achievements. I saw this station blossom. Excuse me, scroll through the last slide. So this year alone, we had better quality nightly newscasts. We used to see a lot of the anchors, but since we brought in lots of elements like full screens, VO, split screen, look live, and we did more outdoor weather, our reporter stories were more compelling and newsworthy. We played around the set, we did more monitor anchor stories, and yeah, it was very fun to be a part of that process, and I'm happy to see how nightly news went. At the same time, live sports got higher quality. I got more involved with turf broadcasts, and we saw our first annual away broadcast. I believe it was the end of my sophomore year, so that was interesting. We're seeing more element-heavy pre-games and analysis, and if I could say anything, whiteout broadcast was amazing. I mean, it was national affiliate level quality in my opinion, and it was phenomenal. I mean, it felt like coverage of the Super Bowl. At the same time, the OPs became more diverse. Shows like Let's Talk About It discussed several societal issues in a positive light, of course. And overall, the OPs were more higher quality. I mean, and from the sports OP side, we saw Wheelhouse, a prime example. It shined with Sports Center style up-to-date news around the sports world, and heavy production and very hard work. Seasons and other sports OPs. One of them, of course, I'll give a shout out because I was a part of it, Laker Connections. I was a part of that show for several semesters, and I saw that show blossom as well. Became more element heavy, more structured, more video, all while still being amazing to watch. And out of studio productions like Acting Out expanded creativity outside the studio. And let me tell you, the holiday special was comical and it was a tearjerker. And of course, special events got better this year. I became a part of special events board. It was a small board, myself, Tara, and Caroline. But it was amazing. We took on the role of the WTOP-10 media red carpet coverage, per usual. And we recently covered Rail Jam with a mobile cart and a correspondent to interview skiers and snowboarders. So that was a fantastic experience. And I could list off these accomplishments over and over, but in my opinion, this was all made possible through teamwork, dedication, passion, and not only just a strong management board, but a strong people who willing to learn. And I could go off about the senior management that built up and inspired me, as well as countless other toppers who are graduating, but there's a lot of them. And you all know who you are if you're listening. And I want to keep adding to this list of achievements, and I think we've got an amazing potential ahead, but I also recognize that there's challenges ahead. And those challenges are why I want to become GM. We've known that we have a multitude of talented seniors graduating. What we didn't know was what the impact that COVID-19 would have on us as a station. This is the first, and once again, I say this is the first and hopefully last time we have to cut productions short, after the second week. And this pandemic is the reason we're all meeting over video conference instead of the MCC auditorium, of course. But I think if you guys ask me, I don't know about you guys, but I think the Zoom meeting's going pretty well so far. I mean, we're generally on time, and I think we can very well conduct e-board interviews over this medium, and it's going to be great. And even beyond WTOP, we're all adapting to Zoom sessions in class, whether we like it or not, and the media industry is adapting as well. News correspondents doing Skype interviews, reporters and producers producing content at home. And I know you all saw Al Roker's pretty sick home setup. So as much as a challenge this may be, I think we can learn a lot from this crisis that we're going through. And this organization has taught me a lot, not only about producing, reporting, and doing crew and everything, but also about teamwork and problem solving. And honestly, those are two of the biggest things I learned. I think two of the deepest, most things that I take to heart. And I want to pass this knowledge on to the next generation of toppers. When I go home and my family asks, that dreaded question, how's college going? I pretty much boast about TOP more than anything else because I've learned so much here and I've made so many friends. And that being said, WTOP is very important to me. And when this whole thing is over and we have a young, fresh roster of WTOP members, I want to lead them. I want to help them have the same experience I had and am still having for hopefully a long senior year. So that brings me on to my goals. I put recruit down 3 times for a reason. And it's because the more members that we have, it's proven, and the more diversity of talent we have, the more skills we can apply. And if there's any year that proved that, it was this year. We want this organization to thrive after we all graduate. And I plan to step up tabling beyond involvement fair and MCC, but should I be GM? As management, I want to be more as a management board as a whole, I want to be more hands-on with recruiting. And that means going to classrooms, talking to students, primarily lower level journalism, BRC and comm classes, to draw up the important kids, the ones that, the broadcasting majors, because you can't get this kind of hands-on experience that WTOP provides in the classroom, in my opinion. And, serious broadcast majors, of course, should join. That being said, we should also explore other majors like cinema, meteorology, creative writing, heck, even zoology majors can benefit from WTOP somehow. So that's another thing I really think as management, we should, be more hands-on, go to classrooms and convince children to join in person. I say children, they're freshmen, they're adults, but yeah, my next goal, of course, is to maintain transparency. I believe every department at WTOP should communicate with each other one way or another. You'll see when I get to my department goals, we have done a fantastic job doing that this year, and I think we can continue doing that. We must also continue to foster a positive and professional learning environment for every station member. And I think an unsung achievement that I didn't really mention earlier was how well human resources stepped up this year, especially with Title IX training for management and a provider providing resources for members of WTOP, because not only did that training, tell us how to present ourselves, but it challenged us. It gave us scenarios to work with should we have to deal with those types of situations. Management has a responsibility to be positive role models and to be engaging with new toppers. Now, there's a thing I was talking with Josh about earlier, and there will be some new freshmen that will step up. This is stuff I've observed too. There will be some new freshmen that we find will step up and be curious a lot about what we do here at TOP, which is fantastic because not only do we get to know them better, but we very quickly figure out their talents and passions, which makes it easier for us to find a place for them. But there are also new freshmen who, on a typical first night of productions, they typically sit around and play on the phones before production start, and it becomes a habit. Now, I say that, and a lot of common people would judge that by that sentence themselves, would judge that it was the freshman's fault, but it is not their fault. Those freshmen are the type that need to be given a sense of direction. It's human nature. So that's where us as management have been and should continue to step in and do even better at. We should engage more shy freshmen, get to know them, find out what their passions and personalities are. Society makes approaching new people too much of a chore, but everyone out there applying for jobs knows that this is an industry about making connections, and it starts here. And my last goal is college and community outreach. This kind of goes hand in hand with recruiting. But beyond recruiting, we should be building relationships with other organizations and clubs and departments like SA, Delsart, the Compass, the Com Department. There's lots of multicultural orgs. Those are just a few examples, but if you look on SUNY Oswego's website, we have over 200 clubs and organizations. There's probably some sort of fly fishing club on campus that we don't know about, but we could discover if we talk to more people. And there's also plenty of small businesses in the city of Oswego that would be willing to advertise with us. This will help us in many ways, give us more contacts for nightly news reporter stories, more ad opportunities for creative services, more business connections for finance and human resources, just to name a few ways outreach helps us, of course. But yeah, that brings me to my department slides. So human resources and communication. As I mentioned, the more community outreach, the better. But the HR department can be very well utilized by making alumni connections as well. Obviously, after alumni graduate, we have alumni that go all over the place, like Nebraska, Florida, DC. There are quite a few local alumni that we have quite a few that are in quite a few local markets. We got the Syracuse market. There's a large Rochester and Buffalo market. There's also plenty of smaller ones. We got Utica, Binghamton, Watertown. It's a pretty common place to go, especially from somebody like myself who's on Excelsior scholarship, who will most likely start in small markets, unless I get some big offer, who knows. But that being said, we should reach out to as many alumni as we can and see if they can hold more workshops. Workshops is something I really want to see more as GM, because there's nothing that compares to learning from the pros. And our HR board should also keep a strong social media presence. We've done a great job with that this year, and we should continue to grow through social media, to see what else we can do with Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube and everything else. But more importantly, of course, they should be there for struggling toppers. Conflicts arise. I've seen them happen here in the past, and no matter how positive a community we try to foster, I'm sure it can happen again. And that's where human resources comes in. all of us as management, of course, should present ourselves as a resource as well, but to have that structured human resource is very important. And it's in the title, of course. So moving on to finance. Not all of our money comes from famous and generous alumni. You all know very well. We do have a limited budget, and we have expensive equipment that we must maintain. And that's why we have our finance department, which to me feels like it's often overlooked, but it's critical. Not only should we be smart with where we spend our money, but we should also be open about it as management. It is very important that all other departments communicate with each other in finance so that we can meet everyone's needs as best we can. But it's also important that finance reaches out to the community, just like HR and advertise. As I mentioned, there could be a small local business out there that's interested in advertising us that we don't know about. So we should build our finance board by recruiting. Going about that, I know our finance board has been traditionally very small. I really want to go upon building our finance board by recruiting business and accounting majors. TOP could be a great place for them to put their skills to work. So I think it's very important that we continue to reach out to them as well as everybody else. Moving on to creative services. So that being said, creative services, finance communicates with creating services to make amazing commercials and advertisements for said businesses. So that's one thing that's very important for creative services. And it's also important for those who are passionate about video editing, photography, graphic design. Creative services is, of course, the department to go for anybody that's passionate about that kind of stuff. And it's a great way to learn how to advertise, create commercials, advertisements. But beyond that, of course, it's a great way to reach out to clubs and organizations and offer to produce content for them. Once again, I say outreach is important. We should reach out to our various organizations and see if they want us to make, recruitment videos for them, because we can do that and we can do a very good job at that. That's our medium. And we must also create content for diverse platforms like social media videos, Instagram, Twitter videos, web content. There's really so much that creative services can do. There's so many mediums they can create it for. There's so much that they can learn, and social media can get involved with it as well when it comes to hyping up the next whiteout or election coverage, and they have. A lot of this stuff we've done a great job on, but I really think we can build on. So moving on to engineering. Engineering, as they say, as everybody I think around me has said, is the backbone of our operation. We need people who can fix things often on the fly, set up equipment for broadcasts and everything. So it's important that engineering communicates with everyone and sets clear standards, of course, to follow for reporters or whoever else may need to use the equipment, which they've done a fantastic job on. Engineering has done a tremendous job fixing numerous technical problems that have arisen as our broadcasts have become more complex. But as our broadcasts become more complex, we will run into more issues. And there's more that can go wrong. So that's where I think engineering should work with finance. They should work with finance for better cables and equipment. I think it's something we should try to put into the budget this year, really focusing on our equipment. I'm more than happy to collaborate with engineering and finance, because all too often I've seen BNCs, XLRs, Pterodactyls stop working during a hockey broadcast or something. And I know sometimes the engineering department wants to tear their hair out when it happens. So, hopefully I'm saying all those terms right. But if we want to improve the quality of our broadcasts, we should really work with engineering demands. And of course, as we put more in our productions, and if we have less problem with basic things like cable, we can focus on improving those productions. If the engineering can focus more on expanding our technical capabilities and enhancing our broadcasts, then that's a win-win right there. And moving on to operations. So operations did some great things this year. They installed a new TV right outside of our studio. Josh showed it off to me right before we left. And now I'm going to be honest with you, operations is the department I probably know least about, but I have a great team beside me. Our current GM was previously, of course, the digital asset manager and the VP of ops, so I know he can catch me up with the logistics and everything like that. But one thing I know we can utilize for operations is accessibility and capability for the WTOP-10 website. If you go on the WTOP-10 website right now, we currently see mostly web stories with pictures and past full video broadcasts. But I think with good enough communication with creative services, I think we're capable of doing more things with the web, you know, like video web stories, top page, breaking news updates, you know, maybe we can play around with some algorithms or something, you know. Again, I don't know much about operations, but I think we can do with more with our web stories, and I'm open for collaboration with the operations department on that. And going on to this next thing, reevaluating our streaming service. Now, movies on demand, it's catchy. But the big question I've been faced with lately is how well does it really benefit us toppers, and what do people really want from movies on demand? You know, now movies on demand is not off the table. I'm completely open for discussion about it, but personally, I think there's better ways we can put out movie content that would benefit us more and maybe save us some money in the future. You know, that's something that I think is open for debate and I'm willing to collaborate on. I'm not saying we should totally wipe it yet, but I think we should reevaluate it personally. And on to productions. Productions, it is our product, our most involved department, and it's the department I'm best versed in. I know I went off earlier about a lot of the achievements we made, of course, but none of it was possible without our other departments as well that I previously mentioned, you know, based off of what, you know, all of us together, and it's how we've grown. So going off that, what productions can do more? I think we can do more away broadcasts for live sports. I have seen the sports departments, you know, in collaboration with engineering and operations, create better forecasts every single time I volunteered my time to do live sports. And, you know, based off of what I've seen with the fantastic whiteout broadcasts, with the increased capabilities going on the turf and everything like that, I think we can do more away broadcasts. Is it harder to do away broadcasts? Absolutely. And you know, it won't be as involved at first, but I think it's something that can be done and it's something we can build upon. We also need more resources for nightly news reporting. And of course, this is a little biased, of course, but once again, that's something that can be done through community outreach, making those connections available for reporters, because oftentimes they're left out in the cold, you know, oftentimes they're brand new and they don't know how to contact. So we want to be a resource for them, and we want to provide them with plenty of a multitude of people that they can contact so that they're guaranteed to have interviews and have their packages in time. And along with that, it's continuing to communicate with creative services. I think we've done a great job with enhancing our broadcasts, but I think we can do more to communicate with creative services to, you know, make graphics and everything to make our broadcasts look fresh and newer each time. You know, there's so many things we could do to improve, and I'm excited about it. And I'm going to end off with, I put our mission statement up here. I'm not going to read it word for word, but it's here to remind us what we do and why we do it. You know, because despite all these goals I mentioned, you know, I threw a lot at you, of course, but and a lot of it is based off of what I want to see and based off of what other people want to see that I've talked to, like leading up to this election, you know, in the short time before when I decided to run for GM. So along with all these goals, along with my goals that I want to pursue, I also want to meet the needs and goals of everyone at WTOP. And I'm open to collaboration and suggestions, because at the end of the day, we're carrying a legacy that comes years before us. This station is for everybody. It's what's going to make our careers someday. And so it's very important. I think I put this mission statement up here to remind us what we're here for. And going off of that, I want to hear from you. So I'm open to questions. Thank you guys for listening, of course, too.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Matt. We really appreciate it. Good job. So for questions, like I said before, if you have a question, you can just throw just like kind of either raise your hand or say you have a question in the chat, and then I'll open you up your video and audio, and you can ask Matt whatever you'd like to ask him, and we can go from there. All right, so we're gonna start off with Julia. So Julia, the floor is yours. If I can figure this out the right way. Jeez.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Oh, oops. All right, awesome, go ahead.
Okay, cool. Hi. So
Hi.
my question is, what is your knowledge and involvement with the other two media orgs, and how do you plan to work with them in the future?
That's a good question. I do actually have a radio show over at WNYO. I actually did it with Josh Holfeth. Fun fact, 8 o'clock rock. So, that's my involvement with WNYO. I haven't been as involved with the Oswegonian, but I have been paying attention to everything that Oswegonian has posted. They have done a fantastic job, in my opinion, of keeping up with this whole COVID-19 process and continuing to be journalists, during this tough time. So, I think our collaboration with media orgs comes with a given that we should collaborate with, and we should talk to as many organizations on campus as we can. The media orgs, we go off of each other. I feel like there's this past, competition that goes on, but really we go off of each other. We're all a different medium and we're all journalists. And I think it's very important that we communicate.
Cool. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, Andrew's next, but first I wanted to say that anybody that's watching on the live stream, I have my email open like right next to me. So if you have a question that you'd like me to ask Matt, just email gm@WTOP10.com and I'll see it come up and I can ask that to him as well for everyone that's watching on the live stream. So just a reminder of that. And Andrew, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. And ask a question.
So you hear me, right? Okay.
Yeah.
My question isn't necessarily one that needs an immediate answer, but should be noted publicly. That all of the movies that we play on 10-2 are coming from Swank. So if you were to cancel it, this doesn't need to be answered now, but what would you do? Like, do you have a plan for what content we would play on the station?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And again, it was a good question because I don't have a full-on answer for you now. My biggest concern with WTOP-10 Movies on Demand is we spend a lot of money to use it. And I think a lot of what we use money-wise could be very much better spent to, meeting the needs of our aging equipment, so we can, deal with less problems when we're, trying to learn how to put on a broadcast. So, of course, I know we have to put on content on the airwaves. So this is something I'm open to collaboration with the operations department. I'm not as familiar with a lot of what goes on within operations as Josh is, but it's a good thing he's here, of course. And I'm going to utilize him. And again, I'm open to collaboration with next year's operation board to figure out a solution, even if it takes time. Thank you, Andrew.
Am I good to go? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, man, how's it going?
Hey, Anthony.
So my question is, you talked a little bit about the finance department, and you also talked about movies on demand and the Swank contract. So what is your priority going to be on spending the WTOP budget?
Okay. Can you more like in detail, like when you say priority with the budget and I see.
So just so like where do you think that WTOP needs to spend like the bulk of their budget going forward?
I think the primarily WTOP-10 going forward needs to spend bulk of our budget on our quality of broadcasts, the content that we produce, and whether it comes from our productions, our studio productions, our hockey productions, our creative services. To me, it's whatever we can benefit with as students to put on high quality broadcasts. You know, I'm hoping to work out more logistics later down the road. But I think it can be equally distributed, and I think I want to make it so that it benefits the students the most. I want to spend money equally across all boards, whether creative services needs it, whether productions needs it, to benefit the students the most. And I'm open to collaboration to come up with the plan once again.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. I like these questions.
Matt, if you don't have chat up, there's a question in chat.
Oh, okay. Hold on just a second. You guys might have to bear with me because I'm also new at this Zoom thing, and I might have to close out. I might have to stop screen sharing to do it.
Here, I'll just read it for you, just so you don't have to worry about that here.
Okay.
So Michaela's question is, we all know that next year is going to be a rebuilding year, not only with the number of seniors graduating, but also with COVID-19 keeping us away from campus. What will you do to help ensure a smooth transition next year?
That's a good question, Michaela. So I really want to continue to communicate with people over the summer. You know, obviously, we're going to have to hire management over this Zoom thing. You know, we're going to have to conduct interviews with that. We're going to have to accept applications and everything like that. You know, this is a new situation for all of us, but I'm motivated because I know we can adapt. That being said, I want to work tirelessly over the summer and see what we can do to put together what we can. And honestly, there's no saying we can't recreate content right now. You know, I'm not gonna speak for anything right now but Newsboard has been talking about something, but I won't spoil it. You know, so that's one thing. To ensure smooth transition, I think it's really just a matter of communicating with everybody. And you know, I'm going to reach out to people as much as I can over the summer. I want to make this a goal of mine to see what everybody's interested in. I kind of already started with a few people. So really, I think the big thing is just communicating and, you know, building what we can and figuring out what we can do over this, this medium we have. And I see Alex has one next.
Hey, how we doing?
Hey, Alex.
Alrighty. So the away game was a goal of mine last year, but logistically, I didn't really look into it prior to, like, you know, getting into my position, and it didn't end up working out. I was just wondering, have you started to look into the logistics of like an away game yet?
I have not, but it's something I'd really like to communicate with our next sports director.
Okay.
I say we can do more away broadcasts as motivational thing because I think we're very capable.
Definitely.
As you know, Alex, you have done a fantastic job as sports director, of course, and you've really built things up. And our broadcasts at home have gone above and beyond. So, you know, even if it's something simple to start off with, you know, just like a 2-camera setup or something, and maybe just a couple people involved, I really think we are capable of going remote. And I'm open to communicate with engineering, everybody that knows more about the logistics and everything, and the sports department about how to do it the smoothest way possible.
Definitely keep in contact with your sports director and have him look into the logistics of it as early as you can. That would be my best recommendation for you.
Of course. Thanks, Alex.
No
Appreciate
problem. Got you.
it. Okay. Julia has another question.
Yeah. Hi. Sorry. I'm not trying to like dominate this or anything.
No. Go on.
I was just wondering, I guess, how knowledgeable are you about the like administration on campus, and how would you go about working with them to better the station? Whether it be like how many people are seeing our content, or trying to like push the boundaries on anything.
That's a good question. Yeah, and it's something I've been thinking about too. I will be completely honest, I'm not that knowledgeable about administration on campus, but I'm willing to learn. It's something I've talked about with Josh. He gave me an overview, and he's going to continue to help me out before he graduates, regarding how to deal with essay, how to do budget proposals and everything like that. So really, I'm open to learn about it. One of the reasons I decided to run for GM at the end too was there's really so much you can learn from the position, that not only, of course, benefits me, but from the station. So yeah, whoever I can get in contact with and whoever I can help me other than Josh too, I appreciate any help, really.
Thank you.
Okay. Phoebe has a question. I don't hear Josh anymore, so I'm just kind of calling out what I see in the chat. But
Hi.
hi, Phoebe.
Okay, good. It works. I haven't used Zoom before. Kind of going off Julia's question, there's a lot of people that you're going to have meetings with to like help us move forward with the intent that you seem to be pushing. How are you going to manage yourself with your responsibilities as a graduating senior, along with being able to make sure that you're still happy and fulfilling what you want to fulfill at WTOP as a topper?
Yeah, I appreciate that question, Phoebe. I appreciate your concern for me too, like seriously. I really think at the end of the day, all of us, I know we try to do a lot as a station, and every goal that I put forth on this presentation, some will go really well and some won't go so well. Really, at the end of the day, it's about how well we can push those. And I think we have some capable, great management that I know will step up and help me out, and I will do the best I can too, because at the end of the day, I feel like, this is something I think I neglected to mention in my presentation. We are all in a club. We all have classes, we all have internships, we're all in this together. So it's about, I will do my best. I can promise you I will stay healthy. And, I think there's going to be a good amount of management that steps up next year that will be of the same mindset. And I'm confident that we can achieve some great goals this year.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you, Phoebe.
All right. Do we have any other questions?
Ben?
The one that I got some of my email, but they've since been answered and don't need to be asked again. Let's see. We got another one. Ben. All right. Yeah. Just kind of like before, like if you put it in the chat that you have a question and Matt's about to answer, you can just unmute yourself. This is actually going a little bit smoother than I was anticipating. So, all right, Ben. The floor
Am I good to go?
is yours.
You got me?
Now I do.
Awesome. Hey, Matt. So you talked about like engineering in the sense of like with the equipment and everything. Speaking as like the equipment manager, we have like a lot of cables that are on spools and stuff, and we do need some equipment as far as like to help us, but we also have a lot of equipment that we might not necessarily need. So my question is, how are you looking to better like organize that in sense like getting rid of some equipment that we might not need going forward and keeping the stuff that we do still need?
Okay. I mean, if there's good equipment from a logistical standpoint, now that you mentioned that, if there is equipment that we have in good shape that we don't need, I think that's something we could probably go about with communicating with finance with and maybe selling some of the equipment, and maybe using that money to get better equipment. That's actually a really good question, Ben.
Right. Thank you.
Of course.
All right, Alex, you can go ahead.
Okay.
Am I good to go?
Yep.
Alrighty. So live sports interest was something that was like pretty difficult to come by last year. There really didn't like seem to be a lot of interest generated. Do you have any like plans to generate interest from like maybe an HR standpoint, maybe like something like that? I don't know. I was just wondering.
Yeah, that's a good question too, actually. This is something I've thought about too, because I know there have been times you've struggled to get people to sign up for sports, and there's been times I've stepped in at times too, whenever I can.
Right. Yeah.
But I think this is something we could reach beyond WTOP for too, if we're struggling to get people. I know there's plenty of sports management, sports marketing, sports broadcasting classes that are going on out there. And who knows, we could reach out to the professors. We could email some students. We could maybe find another communication method to get across to students that maybe aren't necessarily involved at TOP, but are passionate at sports. We've had times in the past where I remember working one broadcast where one of the women's hockey players actually worked camera for us, and found she was interested in sport commentating a little bit too. So that was cool to see. So I think that's something we could outreach beyond TOP and into the classes for maybe.
Awesome. That's a wonderful answer. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, do we have any other questions? All right. Going once. Actually, oh, we got one in the chat. All right. Yep, you can go ahead.
Hey Matt, it's Tara.
Hey Tara.
So this is a big thing that I don't think that really happened this year, but it happened when I was a freshman, I remember. And it might have happened when you were a freshman. Do you remember like in Com 100, like the big lecture halls maybe, or like Com 210, like the classes that freshmen do take?
Yep.
Do you think it is smart? Because back when I first heard about TOP, I was in Com 100, and senior TOP members, I believe it was Tom Lindsay and someone else, came into Com 100 and talked about TOP. And I think that's a very smart way to attract, especially the freshmen. Do you think that's something that you will look into?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that really goes off of what I went over with, going to comm classes, going to BRC classes, going to classes. I think the broadcasting majors and the people that are in the communications department are the most important as far as recruiting, because this is the kind of field they want to go into, besides we can get other departments too. But yeah, no, I'm definitely very open to going to classes, maybe having some members of management, some members of HR going to classes, and recruiting people, some new freshmen that may not even know about our organization. I mean, maybe they've heard of it, but didn't think about joining. So yeah, thank you, Tara.
All right, Eric, you can go ahead.
Okay. Hello. Can you hear me, Matt?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. So my question is, when I first started, I'm a shy person, and it's kind of hard to get involved. It wasn't actually until the media summit that I started talking to people, because I was afraid to kind of go in the office and get more involved with people. So it wasn't until I talked to Michaela and I think you at the media summit that you guys were just come to Open Studio or come to the office. So my question is, do you know how to what you would do to try to make it more open and less kind of intimidating for new people to join?
Yeah. So yeah, I think that really goes off of more of we need to present ourselves. I think that's something we could do with recruiting as well, Tara asked about. And also even within TOP ourselves, being more approachable, finding that shy freshman who may be just kind of playing on their phone, not really knowing what to do, and being friendly with them. I think you have a point, Eric. I have observed cases in the past where people have been intimidated by WTOP, either by how things are run, or, well, I mean, not necessarily how things are run, how things look, or maybe their experience. And I think really that comes down to promoting a positive environment, and, and the involvement fair. I forgot about the fact that I even talked to you in the involvement fair. I'm glad I helped you out a little bit with that, but, and I'm glad you're here to join us. But yeah, I think it's really just putting on a positive face. We can blast TOP on social media all we want, and we can, we can recruit from classes, but it's all about fostering a positive atmosphere and making everybody feel welcome.
All right, thank you.
Of course.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Going once, going twice. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Got nothing in my email. So that's it for questions. I see Matt has put up his email, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. So the way this is
Out
kind
to
of going
me.
to work from here is, Matt, I'm going to give you the floor for a little bit just to kind of say any closing remarks you'd like to say, and then everybody else that's in the video call will kind of convene and talk about things. That's usually kind of how it goes for if we were to do this in person, but obviously we can't do that. So yeah, the floor is yours.
Okay. So I don't have a lot else, but just you look at the screen, keep in touch. Feel free to email me, text me anytime. I got my phone number up here if you want to take a picture. Add me on Twitter. I actually just recently changed my Twitter handle. It used to be Matt GTOP, but I decided to change it to Matt Green TV, so it's a little more ambiguity. But yeah, please keep in touch if anybody has any other questions at all. At any point, anytime from here up into the fall semester, please feel free to ask me. And thank you guys all for listening to me. I can't wait to work with you guys all, and stay safe. We're all in this together. Stay healthy. Wash your hands, of course. And yeah, that's all I got. So I'll leave now. Of
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Matt.
course, thank you.
I thought this went really well for the first time, and I think that that's awesome that we're adapting and doing all that. Everybody, you can unmute yourselves. You can unmute your video if you want to. We're gonna end the YouTube live stream now for everyone that's watching on YouTube because this is over. But thank you for watching through YouTube because I know it helped make this process go smoothly, and I was glad everyone was able to participate in that way. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it, and stay healthy. And I'm going to stop our live stream.